Welcome to a module on assessing application security. The module will highlight and examine typical security problems from an administrative point of view. The previous module discussed application layer threats and attacks. This time, emphasis will be on top administrative practices and approaches to existing problems. Hints and how-to knowledge will be provided to administrators to help them identify insecure applications. Once risky programs are detected, tips on reducing their threat level will be given. The stakes are high. How should an administrator respond if faced with the necessity to allow a program to operate or be run? The program in question could, for example, be a CEO's beloved application, or a program that has been 10 years in use in an accounting department that will not pretend to want to learn to use a different tool. The old program stores data in a completely non-transparent manner, and it can't be exported to boot. It would only seem possible for an administrator to report a security problem to a software company, like only after it produced a crisis, and hope for a swift reaction. But what if the producer quit working on the software or simply doesn't want to reply? Or what if your company is small and the complaint is likely to be ignored? The problem is a serious one. If you take a look at the bird's eye view in the slide above, it seems like any implemented solution that conforms to the set of rules we outlined throughout this course, filtering traffic using 2 firewalls, an isolated demilitarized zone where high-risk programs are running, monitoring web traffic manually and at a regular basis, is still inefficient when it comes to databases. For example, a customer database. What's the reason for this? The problem is in the fact that attacks that rely on attempting to access SQL servers bypass firewalls in a way that is undetectable for them. Since an SQL server is listening on some port, if the port is open to an external firewall, potential attackers will try to connect directly to an SQL server. They would not need a proxy in the form of a web application. If the port is not open, attackers will try to connect through port 80 to a computer that is inside the demilitarized zone and retunnel traffic to port 1433 or some other port that will help them cross the firewall. This is more complicated and requires an attacker to seize control over an entity that is inside the zone. This solution is not infeasible, however. On the contrary, it is quite likely to be tried. If someone tries to read, or worse still, modify the contents of a database, they will probably use SQL injection for this purpose. They will manipulate SQL queries. The attacker's queries will be entered to a browser that connects to a web application, and the application will forward them to an SQL server. All security solutions in between will simply be bypassed. If the web application also turns out to be vulnerable, the environment that can be used to attack it is a browser and port 80 or 443. Any security solutions at the computer network level are ignored. An updated and well-configured web server does not lend security to applications that are run by the server. It's often the opposite. This course puts emphasis on such situations in particular. Even a good configuration of an entire server and web service won't do much good if a potential attacker is able to establish a privileged account in the application. Data snooping can occur if an attacker has local access to a network. One of the earlier modules discusses the fact that local attacks account for 80% of all attacks. This means that the majority of security solutions do not apply to us since we connect to a channel that is beyond them. An SQL server can be misconfigured as well, not due to an administrator's mistake, but due to faults of the database that's running on the PC. Often, a database requires that a connection to a client application is made using the account of an administrator for the entire SQL server. It's unclear why it should need these privileges. This is the default setting. Databases are configured and running in this way.